I guess it starts in 2007 is when I decided to join the Army. Like at the time, I already went to Ball State and Ivy Tech, and I just wasn't into the college thing, so I didn't really have like anything happening at that moment in my life, I guess. So I had a friend hit me up and ask me if I wanted to join or not, and I just randomly was like, yeah, sure. So I just randomly did it, and so I went in 2007, and then I went over to Germany like right after basic training, and I was in Germany up until 2009 is when we went over to Afghan. And so we had to deploy to Afghanistan, and I was there for a year. And like the first week I was there is when I got my injury for my back and also my TBI as well. We were heading back to the post or whatever, and we got hit with an IED and an RPG and small arms fire. So I got injured, and I hurt my back a little bit, and I was getting prescribed some opiates like over there. So this all leads into my addiction as well, because it started in '09 really. So how I got injured in Afghan, and here and there in Afghan is when I was getting oxycodones or something like that. And then when we returned is when the Army was giving me like all those pills all the time, oxycodone, because they handed them out all the time, so it was easy to get, and it was a way to manage my pain as well as I could at the time, and pretty much spiraled from there. So I got out of active duty in 2012, and I returned home in order to go National Guard as well. But when I returned home is when the VA wanted to cut me off the opiates, just end it. And so they didn't really like help me to taper off or like anything like that. They just kind of like ended it. So I was out, and apparently I was already hooked on them because I was having withdrawals, and then I had my back pain as well, and that was not a good time. So I went out onto the streets or whatever to look, and I always was getting pills like out there, and then after the pills is when I kind of went into heroin, because it was harder to find pills. So I went into heroin, and I actually was married at the time, and then I tried to get help in like 2013 it was, and so my ex-wife or whatever flipped out about it, and well, that ended. So and then I went into rehab that year, and I was there from 2013 to 2014, like end of the year, you know. So I did that, and then I was good for like a year and a half maybe, and then I relapsed again, and spiraled out even more after that, and then I went into rehab again, which was last June, and so I did rehab for like 90 days last year, and then I came directly here after that rehab, in order to have some time or whatever to look for a place, you know, to live and all that. They asked me if I felt like I needed to go home or not, but it was like the first week when I arrived in Afghan is when this all happens. So like the first week we got there, like all that happened, and then like and they asked me if I wanted to go or not, and I was like, no, I'm good. So because I had my team and I refused to leave them, and so that's why I kind of stayed the rest of the year, because I'd hate to go there for a week and then go back home. Like, no. So that's why I did it. So we had a medic or whatever, and he was able to help me out with pain and all that and opiates. So yeah, so like I didn't really use the opiates over there often, just like here and there, you know, to keep me if it hurt like really bad, I always would ask him to give me like a couple, but I didn't really begin using them every day until like after that, after I returned to Germany. So like I never expected to be hooked on the opiates like as I was getting them in active duty, but it kind of just led into that, and that happens a lot like now, especially with like younger veterans and things like that, because it's not as bad now in the Army. It's still bad, but when I was in, they would just hand them out just like easily. So, and you would get like hundreds of them, like hundreds at a time, and so it's not that hard to get hooked on them after a while, especially if you have an injury that has to do with your back. Mainly because like a lot of guys that I know like hurt their backs or need like have like spinal injuries and things like that, and everybody that I spoke to was easily hooked on them. So, and then everything just spiraled out of control from there, because you like have to have those every day to live, you know, in order to do your job, and so it can just, it's not hard to get hooked on them. I had enough like after I spent like a year and a half homeless, and I was in my car for a year and a half or something like that. So and like I had no job, and like I just hated having to chase that like high or whatever, you know, like every day having to wake up and be like, oh crap, now I have to get more, you know, in order to be well. So it, like after a while that just gets old, and it's a chore, and a hard one at that, especially if you don't have like income or anything like that. So I was here from last September until this past February. So mainly I just loved being here because everybody was helpful. If I needed like anything or whatever, everybody would do it, or I mean, but I knew like everything was on me to get done, and so and it was just a place where I would be able to feel safe, I guess, while I added on a more clean time or whatever. So I mean, that's really why I stayed here, and then they hired me on here as well, and then now I have my own house and all that, so I was happy that I came here to do that, but I wasn't like ready to just hop out into the world like right away. So I mean, it's meant a lot really, because they are able to trust me, you know. I'm able to build that relationship with everybody here, and like Eldon, and it shows that they really want me to be here as a staff member and up on the board and all that. I mean, it's pretty cool.